You've waxed your chain, you listened to all those talking heads out there, and you got convinced. Either you had it done at your local shop, or you did it yourself, or you sent your chain in, or bought a chain that's been serviced with wax. And you've gotten your mileage out of it, and it started making a little bit of noise. Now what, right? And you didn't do the whole lift yourself, or maybe you did. Well, I'm going to go over how to re-wax your chain in the simplest form to give you the best performance possible from here on out and protect and make that drivetrain last as long as possible after that.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary how to use one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe.
Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy, and we are doing tech tips on how to re-wax your chain that you had done. If you watched my video of waxing your chain, doing the whole process of cleaning that chain to its complete bare essential cleanliness of next to bikeliness. In any case, once it's clean, then you waxed it, then you rode it, and you realized, oh, I fell in love with this, and hopefully you did. And now you're getting like, well, what the heck? It's making a little bit of noise. And it's about my 300 to 500 miles-ish. Kilometers, do the equation. Sorry, not sorry. In any case, you're at the point where it either needs to be re-waxed or refreshed. I have a refresh video. Check that out below in the description. If you don't want to do the whole dipping of the hot wax treatment to refresh it, and you don't have time for that, you just need to extend that life of waxing just a little bit further, check out that video. Quick and easy and get you back on the road in no time. And now it's time to, I need to do the re-wax. Well, it is not actually that hard. It is super simple and easy to do. Relatively. I'm kind of stretching it, but it's not as hard as stripping that chain from degreasing it from being used or fresh out of the manufacturing grease package to waxing, because guess what? You don't have to do that part. You just basically rinse it off, make sure it's kind of rinsed and dry, and then you take the chain off and re-dip it. We're going to go into those details right now. All right, let's go over the few things you're going to need to re-wax your chain. If you already haven't had a chance of buying a waxer, I suggest getting the 2-pot system or 2 different waxers, because you need to do a 2-dip system for re-waxing. And for just general waxing, you just do the 1 dip. But this actually helps you prolong it. So the $30 to $40 lift for this on Amazon works really well. And also you have this little hanger thing, which is basically a bag hanger to do the drip. You just need one of those to accommodate, and you can see how I just kind of finagle it to the side. It's secure, holds up just great. In addition to that, you'll need the wax itself. I use a spoke, or you can use a coat hanger or something as a poker. So when you set this up, basically you have your regular wax that's already melted here, and that's your clean wax. And then what you have is, this is the secret, is the dirty wax bin. The dirty wax, well, I would have this strainer system here. Basically, this is a shower cover, and it'll be in my link below in my Amazon store. It fits perfectly in here. What this does, it lets the settlement of whatever contaminants on that chain drop down to the bottom, and then you're not mixing in. Then this is kind of like your pre-hot wax bath, both around about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So since these are all melted and ready to go, and that's the re-waxing process. You wax it in the strainer portion to shed all the old wax. Then that gets that chain nice and hot. Then when you pick it up, it drains all down. Then you throw it into your fresh wax, and at some point, obviously, your fresh wax will have some kind of carryover contaminants at some point. So what I do is just pour this over and refresh. Therefore, there's the cycle of new, melted, and dirty-ish, and then eventually it gets streamed out. And therefore, you can get several waxings. I mean, I can't count how many. It's a lot of waxing. So you can do your whole families. It takes me several months to go through a bag of this, and I wax all the time. So this one's a brand new bag, and I'll start doing ticks once I refresh it with this one here and see how many I get. But that's basically what you need as in the waxing setup, and then you need your chain tool to take it off. Let's get this thing taken off. So on your bike, you want to knock it down to the smallest cogs, both front and rear. If you have one bias, just the one up front. But on the old school ones here, what that is doing is relaxing that derailleur so you're not fighting the tension on it, and then you know where to put the chain back on. So what you look for is that power link, hyperlink, whatever. If you have the old pin system, well, you're just going to have to deal with that. But I highly suggest getting the newer chains. All have this quickly design. So what I do is take this off, and you just basically pull it back through, keep track of those links. There's a couple schools of thought on doing it as loose. I like to do it connected. Reason being for me is that way the link gets waxed, and it's a lot easier to install because you're not fighting that wax. So I put the link back on there so you have one continuous loop, like so. Then, for me, with this particular size, I think it's 4 inches in diameter on that. So I just take a bended up hook of a design that I'd taken from a spoke. You can make your own out of coat hanger, what have you. Just enough to capture that. And then what you do is just roll it underneath so it just fits in that particular bath. Now we're going to go to the dirty wax, and you set it in there. I leave it set in there for 10 minutes. That one's short, so I have longer ones that I've made. I probably should have used one of those. That actually sits up, but that's where I have this other hook fish, basically spokes. I put a couple wheel magnets on it, so it just sits there nice and tight. So I can stir, what have you, and the J-bin on there helps me pull the chain out or whatever may mishappen. So 10 minutes, right? So 5 minutes in, I do this a little shaky. What it's doing, you can see automatically, is it's taking out old wax, and it could be any kind of wax, right? I've had customers that have had waxes that are from different brands. That's just shedding that all off and getting that chain ready to be freshly waxed. So let that sit there for 10 minutes, and you can see the first coating. The trick is you got to have it in there for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Then once it's completely heated up and shedded, then you're ready to do the clean wax after that. So a tech tip, while that is actually cleaning or shedding the old wax, we're going to do a little bit of a cleaning prep in the drivetrain itself. So typically the wax that's on there, it's just the wax itself. We're not going to worry about that too much. I do not like spraying any kind of anything directly onto the drivetrain. I'm all about spray on the rag and wiping off on the bike itself. This gives you an opportunity to clean the dust, rinse this off with water, light pressure, and you can just kind of floss all the bits, get all the parts clean. I use brake cleaner. You can use Clean Streak from White Lightning product. Just be careful with the brake cleaner and carb cleaners. It can take finishes off, so you want to make sure you're good there. This gives me an opportunity to kind of get all the extra gunk off of the drivetrain and kind of give it a little refresher on there. To really seriously clean the chain rings and the cassette, you have to basically pull it all off to get all that contaminants off by using a ultrasonic cleaner, which is one of these guys, or you can use the brush technique and kind of just, I go, oh, look at that, I got some stuff in there, got caught up, but it's still fairly clean. It's just maybe a twig that I ran into. This gives you an opportunity, And you can see some of that stuff is actually wax that's kind of built up there. It'll flake off, so it's not really too hard lift on that. So basically you want to go through your drivetrain, give it a good wipe down and that kind of thing. I'm going to poke at that wax. Back in the day we would use grind down spokes. You can get the Park pick set for a little bit cheaper and a little bit nicer. It does have a magnet side, which is nice to pick up little bits, but here we can just kind of scrape off that wax that built up on smaller cogs, that kind of thing. Give it a good peel off. There we go. That's probably the only thing that may happen, is the wax from the chain itself might build up a little bit areas, but see how it really kind of protects those cogs. And it's not the idea of like your Teflon where you want to coat all this. It's not necessary. And so with the wax itself is really the chain portion, and if you have any kind of buildup on your jockey pulleys, which actually I don't really have, you want to clean those off too, that kind of thing. All right, so you got the chain, or the chain still soaking, and right in the middle of that, you want to like double check this, give it a good swirl. So you see the chain's getting really shiny, right? Like that old wax is just kind of melting all off. So we'll give it another 5 minutes, and while that's still cooking, then what I like to do is lube the pivots and the jockey pulleys. Well, what I mean by that is this is a Tri-Flow Superior Lube. Works really well. The pivots on your derailleur, you put a little drop on here, a little bit on your cable, barrel adjuster. Don't forget the inside here. What that does is helps freshen up that action of the derailleur, right? And the jockey pulleys, depending which ones you have, put a little drop on the pulley spindle areas. You can see how it just came back to life. And that'll help with efficiency and smoothness. You can go crazy and do the ceramic pulleys, which you want if you have $300 or $400 to spend and just want to do it on your pulleys, go for it. Then you have the pivots of the front derailleur. This will help the action of the front derailleur to go up and down. This is kind of a flush, right? So you put it on there, and then you take your rag, you massage it through, then you just wipe off the excess. Same here. So that kind of freshens that up. Part of that mouse squeaking can be the jockey pulleys back here. That kind of thing. What the heck? I got a cracked pulley. Whew. All right, well, I'm going to have to replace that. So inspecting, and that's actually just by dry rot and age, not by wear and tear. Those are pretty typical on those. So in any case, that's how, while that's still cooking, gives you something to do. And then you can double check your rims, air up your tires, do your safety checks on your brakes. Gives you the opportunity to kind of go over the bike while it's warming up. All right, now this is all nice and shedded, heated up, and we got a little bit of twist here. That's okay, it's fine. Twist or no twist, it still does the same. So what I like to do is kind of shake a little bit. What that is doing is just pulling all the surface wax off. It's still inside there. Then we're ready to go ahead and submerge it into the fresh wax. Same concept, sit in there for 5 minutes, agitate it, move it around. That's moving that tungsten disulfide around, or whatever blend of wax you're using. It has a mixture of some kind of graphite to mix it up, and then let that sit. And once that's done, you can just turn off the dirty wax. And once that dries, if you want to get rid of that bottom portion of wax where may the settlement be, you can just pull it up, slide out as a hockey puck, and you just cut it if you want. Or you can just dump it out. Eventually at some point refresh it with this. So any case, that's basically the typical re-waxing process that's pretty much been done today. So really you're 10 minutes in, 20 minutes total, and a hang time after that. But actually, 20 minutes of working on and prepping your bike is pretty easy to spend, especially if you're going to be doing any kind of cleaning on the bike. If you're going to be rewrapping your bars, it's a good time to do that, getting that freshness. Or if you have any bad cables, you need to pull those, or housing, or just a good all general cleaning, which the general cleaning I use Purple Power blended with water, about half and half, and then you can wipe the frame down. And keep in mind, if you're wiping dirt, you're actually scarring up their clear coat. You can rinse it off with water first. I have water here to kind of help get that all gunks off. And when you do the hose, do the misting or the light, gentle rain can, and try to avoid water here, also on the top. And you can see how it's just kind of just shedding that stuff right off. I have waxed this before, or actually just put a ceramic coating on it. You can see how it beads up. Makes it pretty easy for that dirt to just kind of fall off. And that's where that ceramic coating on bikes has become pretty nice. Like so. Alright, I've agitated it. And basically what we do is you hang it. I have it up pretty high, but we hang it up, and you can let this either sit overnight or give it about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to kind of dry. Then you can shed off the excess of it when you install it. And now the chain is somewhat dry. It's pretty dry, and you can see, let me show you my stiff chain. Yeah, he basically made a huge stiff link. We need to address that either before or during installing the chain. And I have a little secret trick that will help you get your chain performance up quickly and without less of a hassle and less mess. But yeah, check out my stiff chain. Oh boy. Okay, did go there. All right, you take it off its hook, right? And one common practice is just kind of manipulating the links and get it to shed, that kind of thing. You can do that prior to installing it to make it a little bit easier, because you can see I have a whole bunch of stiff links, but you want to find that power link, quick link, whatever link that you want to use, and then we unhook that. As you can see, my secret tool in the background, and it's the coffee cup. No, not just kidding. Coffee cup's good. You gotta have a good amount of coffee. Keep this going. So okay, so you can either take the power link or quick link off if you want. I'm gonna try to put it on there without. If it does fall on the floor, keep an eye on it. This will be hard to find if it does drop. So you want to lace it through your derailleur, jockey pulleys. I like going through the pulleys first, and getting it to thread through. Sometimes there's a booger, and you want to avoid that bottom plate underneath, so it's not rubbing up against that. On the newer, bigger, fatter mountain bike style derailleurs, you can get that threaded in correctly, and it'll just be rubbing up against it, and you're like, oh, my chain just sucks. See how it's like stiff linking up right now on the jockey pulleys? Well, we're going to take care of that here in a second. But first, we need this threaded through the drivetrain. And since we did it on small and small, you know where to go, right? So that helps with that process. And then you loop it underneath. One trick is if you're fighting the tension of the derailleur, you can just take it off that small cog and just lay it. And you line up your quick link or power link. Then you get your tool, snap it in there. And you see how it just caked out, pushes out that wax. All right. So at this point, you can go through your gears a little bit, but it's not going to shift very smooth because it's going to be clunky from the stiff link. So what I'm doing is I'm going to try to find that middle straight angle, which typically for me is my middle to middle. Depending on your bike, it could be just a one by, you just want to put it in the middle. What you're trying to do is just get a good enough gap right here. Here comes the trick, the sneaky trick that you've been waiting for. This tool, I forgot to mention this earlier. This is basically a chain tool. It's never been used to chain clean. It's just been used for waxing, deburring. So basically what this guy is going to be doing is shed that built up wax and make it a little bit smoother. Buy a new one. Don't use one that's already been used with fluids or anything. What this is just kind of breaks it free, and you just kind of gauge it into that cog there, roller of the chain cleaner, and basically it'll have, pulling backwards, you'll have a give, and all of a sudden you'll feel that chain starts getting really fluid, like whoo, and you can see the wax kind of flake off. This will help with that process and get rid of a lot of those stiff links right out of the bat. So therefore your break-in on your ride is going to be decreased from 10 miles to maybe more like 5 miles. And then you want to go through your gears like so. Give it a good, and you'll still see some shedding for the first ride or so, of course, but that's your, we re-waxed your chain. Let's recap. All right, let's go over what we had to use to do re-waxing. Well, first you got to have your wax, right? So whatever particular wax you prefer or your own blend. Then you got to have a wax warmer. 2-pot is preferred for re-waxing because you don't have to, it makes it a lot easier. So you have your dirty wax with that strainer, and then you have your clean wax. And then I have a hanger here to hang the wax on, or if you have a pegboard, you can use a peg too. Just as long as you're recapturing that wax so you get the most efficiency usage or most usage possible out of one bag. And then for takeoff installation of the chain, you'll need a chain pliers like this from Park Tools or similar company, but their needle nose won't work. You got to have something that has this kind of fitting to do it. A pick to do some cleaning on with, and refresh your derailleur, jockey pulleys, and pivots on that. And the secret weapon from the secret chain, but this is the bike hand one, but get yourself an inexpensive chain cleaner, and you can see how it sheds all this wax off, and then it makes that chain perform a lot better for sure. And looking at the drivetrain, this is what you got. You got your nice wax chain ready for performance. All this extra wax will flake off during that first couple rides. Well, there we have it. You have a freshly waxed chain. Not too difficult, right? I mean, there's a couple steps, yeah, but nothing more difficult than anything else to the bike per se. For the most part, it's not like bleeding brakes or something a little complicated like that. It's pretty much your dipping system and just knowing what to do, like step, 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 step. It is pretty fluid. And on that first ride, take kind of deal like light shifting. Don't grind those gears and put a lot of load on it right off the bat. I mean, once you're in that gear, you can put load into it. It's just be light and polite for the first 5 miles until that chain just becomes super smooth and fluid. Well, that's going to do, again, to recap, will save the chain life a little bit longer. Number one, I've heard crazy stories like 10,000 miles. I don't believe it, but whatever. It can be true. And then it saves your cassette, your chain rings, and jockey pulleys. That crack pulley, it has nothing to do with wear and tear. That's just the dry air climate area, and that plastic just pops. But in any case, it usually will save a lot of that componentry for longevity. If you're a grinder and you know who you are, if you're like just getting in that gear and you just grind and you only do like 2 or 3 gears, like yeah, I shift like up and down, and you don't use the 10, 12 gears that you have on your drivetrain, you're putting a lot of load on those particular cogs in the chainring. That might help reduce the wear and tear so you're not going through cassettes and chain rings as fast. You know who you are. Typically, most of the rest of us like to do a little more spinning. Spinners out there, That came out wrong. In any case, what that means is you have higher revolutions of pedaling, therefore you're going to be shifting a lot more, which is going to distribute that stress and that load amongst your whole drivetrain. A little bit better practice, but you are what you are. You're going to be a grinder or a spinner. Okay, that came out really weird. In any case, that's what's going to help you with that is some wax. Okay, then you got the benefit of wattage increase and smooth shifting and those benefits for those racers. Okay, that's just the general wax, and this stuff is great because it doesn't cake up, get ugly and mess. Watch the videos that I've had before. You'll see that hot mess and cleaning that we'd have to do to just get through that. But in any case, that'll keep your drivetrain a little bit cleaner. For those who are wanting more performance, there's a chip from Silca, which is speed chip, which you can put it in your current wax, and there's a measurement thing you have to worry about. But once you get it in there, that increases the efficiency of the wax and it drops the wattage down, but shortens the life of the wax. Then they have another chip, counterintuitive, to add a lengthening of the cycle of the wax that's currently out of the bag to give you longer usage. I don't know, it looks like a big old chunk of paraffin wax from Walmart canning. I don't know, but I would rather just, refresh it with this guy, the liquid version. Don't get the big bottle. Get the little 2-ouncer for 16 bucks. This is like 45 bucks. That'll be enough to refresh your chain several times for several years, or if you have several bikes. You don't use a lot like you've seen, like you drop on each roller, that kind of thing, to refresh it before you can do the full wax. Yes, it sounds like a pretty expensive lift. This is probably an inexpensive or less way to go. I mean, between the waxer, 30 bucks, hanger, 30, 45, wax itself, you're looking at 80 bucks. The chain cleaner thing and a couple tools, you're probably at 110, 120 bucks, right? The Silca pot itself is 110 bucks. So you can go the back street way of doing it, doing inexpensive, and the wax warmer here is for waxing your bits. It's the same thing. It just warms up that wax to what it needs to be at 180 Fahrenheit, 160, 180 Fahrenheit. The speed wax, though, they do say they is over 200 degrees Fahrenheit to get that to activate. Also, there's strip chips. So if you want to, with new chains only, you can do the strip chip thing, which you put the chip inside the current wax, and that helps break down and removes that wax from the lubricant from the new chain, and then you could re-wax it from there. I would still probably do the tooth bath system, like one bath for the strip chip and then push it over to the regular wax to kind of help give that more of a buildup. Essentially, you'll be re-waxing your chain again after 300 to 500 miles. My neighbor, she got 600 miles on her gravel bike before it started making any noise. And that noise is basically a little rougher shifting, that squeaky noise of a mouse, and that's a good indication that it's time to re-wax it. If you're one of those individuals that just only likes to wax once a year and you want the higher performance and you do a lot of miles, buy 3 chains. Wax all 3 of them, cut them to length, and then when one chain wears out, swap it with the next one, and when that wears out, swap it to the next one when the wax wears out there. Then you have 3 chains and you do the re-wax process on all those 3 chains, and therefore you have the highest performance throughout, especially if you're going to be doing the racing with the speed chip and all that. That's recommended to do that, and that's a lot easier, quicker lift. Therefore, you have a chain always ready to go, so if it starts making noise and you have that event in an hour, you don't have time to drip, you can just throw a new chain on there and go. So there's a couple different ways you can do this to make it more efficient for however you see your riding, right? From recreational, I'm just going to tool around the neighborhood, to those who do more recreational exercise riding for fitness and health, and then you have the pro elite category where they do a lot of racing and so forth. The speed chip was introduced in the Tour de France this year, which it has a couple winnings on it. So apparently it has some boost to it. You can look at Zero Friction channel on YouTube to see the testing on those. and see how they perform under his rigid testing process. Well, in any case, that's your re-waxing. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. Until next time, if it's beautiful in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. If you have any other tips and tricks and so forth and all that, please throw some comments below. It is community here. It's you that makes this channel, so thank you so much for being here. And I'll have information in the description and so forth where to find this stuff, where it's not too expensive on Amazon affiliate. And hope you have a wonderful day. Get out there. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, go for a ride. If I've not said that, it's worth saying again. Go for a ride. Until next time, from the garage. So if you find yourself watching this and going, that is a little too much, Justin, just a little too much. You got to do the basic 3 things, right? Number 1, get the right equipment. Number 2, clean the living crap out of that chain, regardless if it's used, new, or what have you. And number 3, waxing it proper. Yeah, that might be a little tough for those to indulge into this, but lucky for you, I have a service. Basically, if you have a specific chain that you like or want to have on your bike, you could purchase it, have it shipped directly to me. I'll wax it and then ship it back to you. That information is on my website, iknowaguybicycles.com. In addition to, I have a few other chains, mostly SRAM, with all the linkage, whatever, on those chains that have already been pre-waxed and ready to go. So you got 2 options there to get waxed without being waxed, right? Any case, yeah, I know it's a heavy lift, but it might be something you want to indulge only into re-waxing yourself, but the original waxing you want to leave to the professionals. Am I a professional? Maybe so. Well, in any case, check those out as an option for you. But I guarantee you, once you go wax, you won't go back.